Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Sarah, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet Ellis the Elephant. This is my very own pattern that you can find in my Coffee and my Ribbler shop. I do have a very quick disclaimer before we get into crocheting, and that is I do crochet pretty quickly, so if you have a hard time following this tutorial, make sure to slow it down, pause, replay, and if you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments and I will try and answer them as quickly as I can. For materials, you're going to need some yarn. Now you can use any yarn type you want for this pattern as long as you use the correct crochet hook with it. I will be using Sweet Snuggles Light in this purple color. This is lavender, makes sense. And then I'm also going to be using the size 4 yarn. The size 4 yarn is to start my magic rings because Sweet Snuggles Light tends to fall apart, and then also to sew the limbs on. That way I don't have to battle with the size 6 chenille yarn. And then you also need a secondary color for toes. You could make the toes the same color as the body, or you could do something totally wild. You don't have to do white. Final thing for yarn, you'll need some acrylic yarn for the tail. Now you don't technically need acrylic yarn. You can use a third color of the main yarn you're using for the body. If you're working with chenille yarn like I am, you're going to want to crochet the tail rather than create a tassel and brush it out. If you're interested in that tail tip, I'll have Cooper the Calf listed in the description, and you can follow that tail tip tutorial for the elephant and you'll get the exact same effect. Then you'll need crochet hooks. I'm going to be using, well, just the one crochet hook. I'm going to be using a 5mm hook today, and then you'll also need a pair of scissors and a sewing needle or two. I'm going to have this plastic one and this metal one. You'll also need some safety eyes if using. I'm using the 16mm eyes today, but you can always embroider the eyes. I'll have a couple tutorials linked in the eye cards in the description as well if you're interested in embroidering eyes instead. And then finally, you'll need some stuffing. That is it for the materials. Let's go ahead and get into the crocheting. We're going to start with the head and body. They're all one piece. To start, we're going to make our magic ring or our chain 2 method, whatever method you prefer to start working in the round. I'm going to be doing my magic ring with the size 4 yarn and then join my size 6 yarn on. And in this magic ring or your chain 2 method, you're going to single crochet 8. And then once you finish that, we're going to close up our magic ring or your chain 2 method, whichever method you're using. I'm going to leave mine a little bit loose until I finish the second round, and then I'll tighten it all the way. For the second round, we're going to single crochet in each stitch, but we're going to do it in back loop only. Now that round is finished, I'm going to secure my magic ring for your chain 2 method. I recommend doing this whether you use the size 4 yarn or if you're just using the regular magic ring. Just putting a couple knots on the back, keep the magic ring from coming undone as quickly. Now for the next 3 rounds, we're going to single crochet in each stitch around. And if you couldn't tell by now, this is the trunk. Here's our trunk mostly finished. For the next round, we're going to increase, and then we will single crochet, and we'll repeat that 4 times total. And for the next round, we're going to single crochet 3, then we'll increase 6 times, and then we'll single crochet 3. And for the next round, we're going to single crochet 3, we're going to increase and then single crochet 6 times, and then single crochet 3. And here we are finished with the increase rounds. So now I'm going to stuff the trunk, and normally I would wait to stuff the head until the head is pretty much finished. But because of the trunk, it can actually be really hard to stuff later. So I just like to put a little bit in there now. And if your trunk sticks straight out, that is fine. We're actually gonna do some face shaping and adjust it if you want, of course, or you can just leave it straight. For the next 4 rounds, we're going to single crochet in each stitch around. You should have 24 stitches at this point. And here are 4 single crochet rounds finished. For the next round, we're going to decrease. I use the invisible decrease, and then you're going to single crochet twice, and then you'll repeat that 6 times total. And now we are going to insert safety eyes if you're using them. We're going to insert the safety eyes between rounds 9 and 10. This is actually between our first and second single crochet round. And then when we shape the face, you're going to sink the eyes in, so you can play around with that a little bit as well, see how it'll look. And here are the eyes attached. Now at this point you can stuff the head, but I'm going to be waiting until I finish the increase rounds on the body to stuff the head. I just prefer this as it makes it easier to crochet when the head isn't stuffed, at least in my experience. For the next round we're going to decrease and then single crochet, and you're going to repeat that 6 times. For the next 2 rounds, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. You should have 12 stitches at this point. For the next round, we're going to increase and then single crochet, and we'll repeat that 6 times total. Now for the next 2 rounds, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. And for the next round, we're going to increase, single crochet 2, and you'll repeat that 6 times total. And here are the increase rounds finished for the body. So now I'm going to stuff the head. Here's the head stuffed. So now for the next 4 rounds, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. And here are 4 single crochet rounds finished. Now this next round is where I differ slightly from the written pattern because we're going to crochet the tail directly on. In the original pattern, I actually sew it on separate, but it's really not necessary. So we're just going to crochet the base of the tail on right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to decrease and then single crochet 2, and you'll repeat this a few times until you get closer to the top of the body where we will put our tail. Now depending on tension, it's going to be completely different how many decrease single crochet 2s you need to make, and if you have to, you might need to just do a decrease and then finish the single crochet 2 after the tail. Depends, like I said, on tension. So thankfully I was able to do decrease single crochet 2, and I can see that I'm in line with the eyes and the trunk now. If you trace up, to make the tail, we're going to chain 4. And then we are going to skip that first chain and single crochet into the next 3 chains. Now I single crochet in that back hump of the chain, that way it looks cleaner, but you can crochet in any part of the chain. Especially depending on your yarn type, it might be more difficult. And then once you finish those 3 single crochets, I go right back into the body and pick up where you left off. For me, that's decrease single crochet 2. At this point, you can double check that it's aligned mostly even. I think it looks fine for me. And you can start stuffing the body a bit more. I'm just gonna do the neck portion and then do the next round and then finish stuffing the body. For the next round, you're going to decrease, single crochet 1, and repeat that 6 times total. And at this point, I'm going to finish stuffing the body completely. And here's the body stuffed. Now we're going to do our final round, and that is decrease 6 times. Once you finish, you're going to slip stitch, chain 1, and fasten off. You just need a length of yarn long enough to close up the bottom hole, so it doesn't need to be too long. And here's what our elephant is looking like so far. So the first step we're going to do after the body is we're going to close up the bottom hole. And I do this by collecting all of the back loops. And if you feel like you need to add some more stuffing now before you close it up, once you finish collecting all the back loops, you're just going to secure it with a quick little knot and then weave it in. And here's the body actually finished now. The next step we're going to do is we're going to sink the eyes in, and for this I'm going to be using my size 4 yarn, but you can use any yarn you'd like. The body yarn will work fine, whatever you use to make the body. And we're going to start at the bottom, and what we're going to do is we're going to come up next to one of the eyes, and then we're going to grab one stitch just like this, go all the way across to the other eye. Here you can see I grabbed this stitch. I'm going to grab one stitch over here, go back to the other side, this time at the top of the eye. We're going to grab a stitch up here, so right across the top of the eye. Same on the other side. And then we will bring the end back down to the bottom of the head again. And with your fingers, you're going to pinch the eyes together and then pull those ends to actually sink them in, just like that. I'm gonna sink mine in a little bit more. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to tie these two ends together nice and tight. And then taking your length of yarn you've already cut, if that's too short at this point, cut your working end to be longer. And we're going to take this end and we're going to thread it through to the top of the trunk. Pull nice and tight. And you're just going to grab one of the stitches up here. I'm going to grab this back loop here, or this front loop, excuse me. And we're just going to come down back again to the other end and pull tight. And this will give your trunk a little bit more of a curve. You can pull it as tight as you want, just like that. And now you're going to secure the end once again, and then weave them both in. And for our next step, we're going to go ahead and finish the tail, since that's a pretty easy step. Like I said earlier, if you want, you can follow the Cooper tutorial. I'll put it up on the screen so you know what it looks like, and that will show you how you can crochet the tail detail. Like I said, I'm just going to be using this acrylic yarn because I like the way it looks for the elephant. Just have 5 or 6 lengths of yarn, all cut mostly even. We're going to trim them, and then in any color you want. I picked this color. I think it's pretty interesting. I'm going to insert our hook from the back to the top. So from the bottom of the tail to the top of the tail. Maybe. Hold on. Can't do that holding the acrylic yarn. Okay, once you get your hook in there, we're going to put all of that acrylic yarn on the hook like this, and then hold it and bring it all through and create a loop like so. Do not pull it all the way through, but create a loop. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring all of the ends through that loop, and this creates a knot. Now you're going to pull all of these nice and tight, and then I'd like to go through individually and pull them until everything sits nice and flat. And once you have finished tightening the knot and it's nice and secure, what you're going to do is trim your ends. And you can leave these as long as you want, as short as you want, doesn't matter. Now at this point you have a couple options. You can leave it like this, or you can brush it out. I'm going to be brushing it out with a metal brush. Or you can take a needle and you can carefully pull the fibers apart. And this creates a curly look. Let me show you an example of this. But you just separate the 4 fibers of the acrylic yarn and you get this texture here. But and again, it's entirely up to you what you want to do with this tail. And here's the tail brushed out. I'm gonna give it one more tiny little trim to cut the fluff that sticks out quite far. At this point you can shape the tail as well, trim it however you want. I'm not gonna go too crazy with it. Just like that, the tail is finished. I actually think this yarn is perfect for this plushie. Now that the body is finished, we have to make the ears and then the arms, but we'll start with the ears. The ears for the elephant are worked in rows, so this might be a little bit complicated, but I will walk you through it. To start, we're going to make a slip knot onto our hook. You can just leave a nice short end, it doesn't need to be long. For row 1, we're going to chain 8. Then we will skip that first chain and I'm going to work in the back humps of this chain, but you can crochet in any part of the chain. You're going to single crochet into the next 6 chains. And in that final chain, we're going to put 3 single crochets, all in that final chain. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn. For row 2, we're going to increase 3 times, so 2 single crochets in the next 3 stitches. And now we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Then we're going to chain 1 and turn. Yes, there are stitches remaining, and that is intentional. We're going to skip that first single crochet here, and we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Then we will increase and then single crochet, and you'll repeat that 3 times. And in that chain stitch right here, we're going to increase. This can be tight squeeze. Chain 1 and turn. And then in that first stitch, we're going to increase. Then we're going to single crochet all the way down. Just like so. And now we're going to place a single crochet into that chain stitch. And now we're going to single crochet into this stitch down here and work across those remaining stitches. But first, what I like to do to prevent any gaps is to grab that loop on that single crochet on the side and then go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through all of those loops, and then finish the single crochet. And this just closes any gap that may appear there. Then you're going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches, and finally single crochet into that last chain. Chain 1 and fasten off, and here you have your ear all finished. Now leave a length of yarn for sewing. You'll need quite a bit. Now go ahead and repeat these instructions to make 2 ears total. Once you finish your ears, we're going to move on to the feet. So let's go ahead and do that. To crochet the feet, we're going to need both of our colors, both the main color and then the white if you're using, or whatever secondary color you chose. And here you can see I joined some size 4 yarn to sew the legs onto the body, which I'll show you how I do this once we finish our first leg. Of course, you can always leave a length of yarn with whatever your primary color is. Sweet Summer's Light doesn't sew very easily, so we'll just make it easier on me and use a size 4 yarn. To start our leg, we're going to start with a magic ring. So I'm going to be using my size 4 yarn again. And in that magic ring, you're going to single crochet 6. Go ahead and close up your magic ring or your chain 2 method, whatever method you prefer. For round 2, we're going to increase 6 times with 2 single crochets in each stitch. Now I'm going to go ahead and secure my magic ring. So I'm just going to pull everything nice and tight and then tie everything together. The next round is when we're going to crochet the baubles. So we're going to start with 3 single crochets. And then we're going to bobble 3 times in a row. So what I like to do is put my working yarn down. Don't cut anything or do anything like that, just hold it down. And then I'm going to yarn over with the white, put it on my hook just like this. And I'm holding all the loose ends with my fingers down below. And we're going to bobble with the white. So stick your hook in, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, just like that. This is an incomplete double crochet, and you're going to repeat that 3 times total. And of course you can always do more. I'm actually going to do 4, excuse me. I'm going to do it 4 times total. So you have 4 white loops on your hook and then 1 primary color. And you're going to finish this bobble with your primary color, so in my case purple. That way the bobble is very, very clean for the color change. If you color change with white, you're gonna have a little mark in between. Here you can see we have purple here, but if you did white, you would see white here and here and here, where these little lines are. So that is why I color changed the way I'm doing. So then for the next bobble, you're just gonna yarn over in white and repeat it into the next stitch. Now this whole thing is a little bit of a tight squeeze, but if it's too hard to crochet, you can just do 3 incomplete double crochets. If you find that it's not enough, you can do more. Just adjust it as you need for the toes. And then finish that second bobble with your primary color. And finally, we're gonna do our last bobble. And then finish it off with the primary color. And now single crochet in the remaining 6 stitches. Okay, depending on your tension, or if you haven't done this before, maybe you're still practicing, you might have some loops that kind of stick out right here, this loop right here. And if you do have loops that stick out, what you can do is you can insert your hook underneath that purple and or your primary color and just hook that and pull it in. And and do the same thing on this other side here. Here you can see a little bit clearly what that loop is, and just pull it in. And that cleans up the bobbles a little bit. Now cut that working white end and tie these two ends together to secure them. Not super duper tight, but tight enough to hold everything together. And now for the next 2 rounds, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. For the next round, we're going to decrease once, and then we're going to single crochet twice, and then we'll repeat that 3 times total. And for the next round, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. And now we are going to slip stitch, chain 1, and fasten off. Now leave a length of yarn if you can sew with your yarn well. I'm just going to leave a short end and join my size 4 yarn on, which I'll show you how to do really fast. So first we're going to stuff the leg. Now to join the new yarn, what I'm going to do is thread my needle, whatever needle you're going to use to sew the size 4 yarn with. I'm going to go into that slip stitch from the back to the front and pull out a length of yarn. Doesn't need to be too long since we're not going to be doing so much sewing with this. It's only 9 stitches we're attaching. And then what I'm going to do is tie the 2 ends together. I cut my working yarn, and I'm going to tie these together several times until I can pull on them and they don't come loose. Usually do about 4 knots, and that's fine. And there you have your leg with the size 4 yarn joined on. Go ahead and make 4 of these legs. Have it already, and then I will see you back here to show you how I sew everything together. Here I have all the pieces together, and normally with my smaller patterns I'll actually sew the legs on first, but for the elephant I think it's easier to sew the ears on first, so that is what we will be doing. I will be pinning my ears in place, that way you all can see it better. Normally I wouldn't pin. I'd sew the first ear on and then line up the second one with it. But like I said, so you guys can see it before I actually start sewing, I'm going to be using these big plastic needles for that so nothing can get lost in the plushie. So to start, we're going to take our first ear and we're going to pin the bottom of the ear in place, like to be 2-3 stitches below the eye. Remember, we will adjust the ear as we place both of them on. And then I like to put the top part of the ear slightly set back from the eye. And now I'm going to adjust the placement slightly by putting a pin in the middle. And now the goal is to put the other side and make it look pretty much exactly the same. So here's the ear placement. And now we can start sewing. So to join the ears, I'm going to be using my plastic needle because I'm going to be using the size 6 yarn to attach them. Hopefully this yarn doesn't give me too much trouble. To attach the ear, we're just going to sew across where we pinned it. So starting with that first stitch, and then you go ahead and grab one of the stitches of the ear and then attach it to the body in the same manner all the way around. Just try and make sure that you follow where you marked it or where you pinned it, and even if it's a little bit off, you can adjust the second ear so that it matches and it'll look very normal, what it's supposed to look like. And once you finish attaching the first ear, you're going to go ahead and tie these two ends together, or you can secure them separately, whatever you prefer, and then weave them right in. That way it's a little bit less chaotic while we try and sew the second ear on. Now to join the second ear, I'm actually going to readjust my pins slightly. That way I know how to sew it on to match the other one a little bit better. So right there should be good. Once I start sewing, it'll look the way the first ear looks. So go ahead and attach the second ear in the exact same way. Just make sure that you're looking at the other side as well and checking to make sure it's lining up properly. And here are both ears joined and sewn on. All the ends are woven in. So now we can sew the legs on. To sew the legs on, I will be using my metal needle since I'm going to be working with my size 4 yarn. In order to join the legs, I just like to put them against the body and then sew them on. I don't usually pin these in place, but if you need to with like the ears, feel free to pin the legs in place as well. But I like to sew the legs on first and then I reinforce them, and what this does is obviously it reinforces them, but it also cleans up the edge a little bit to make it look very, very seamless. So I'll show you how I do that in a second. But for the first one, I'm just taking each stitch of the leg and joining it to one stitch of the body and going all the way around. And then I like to also sew this in a little bit of an oval shape. I don't think I mentioned that yet. Then once you get all the way back around to the beginning where we started sewing, what I like to do is sew around the base of the stitch. So here you can see a stitch right here. I go underneath and around it. Kind of like when you front post crochet, except with a needle. We're going to go around the post of the single crochet and then go through into the next stitch of the body, and then again around the next stitch of the leg. And like I said, this just creates a very seamless look while also reinforcing the leg a little bit. So I'm going to do this all the way around, then I will secure my end with a couple of knots and weave them in. And then I will sew on the rest of the legs in the exact same fashion. So it's time to speed things up. And here's Ellis the Elephant finished. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know in the comments below if you crocheted an elephant. Let me know what colors and materials you used. I always love to hear about it. You all come up with such fantastic things. You're so creative. Let me know what you thought about the tutorial as well. Hopefully you all liked it. I think that's pretty much it for this video though. Thank you so much for watching to the end, and thank you so much for all of your support. I will see you next time. Bye!